For these last few videos, we're finally going to get to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to look at the different playback options, repitch, cycles, textures, and kind of dive deep into each of those. We'll also finally be touching on what's going on over in this section of the instrument as well. So this is the sound that we're going to be using.
Now move for me.
And get used to it. You won't have to get too used to it though, because as we move into some of these different modes, this is not going to be recognizable anymore. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead, let's drag it, let's bring it in. We're going to stick to repitch mode for this video. And right now, based on all that we know so far, with the settings as they are, no matter where I click on the keyboard, it's just going to play back the sample.
Now move for me.
And the only fun thing I could do is kind of create a doubling effect.
Now move for me.
If I hit two keys close to each other.
Now move for me.
And when I say close to each other, I just mean time-wise.
Now move for me.
But I could do the exact same thing using a delay effect, so that's really not that interesting or exciting. Let's move our playhead.
Now move for me. Now move for me. Now move for me. Now move for me.
Okay, now if we wanted it to key track, we'd have to turn this on, and then it's very important that we know what the root key is. And in this case, it's an E, so now we can play up and down the keyboard, have it key tracking. Assuming you've done what I've shown you in the past, you can make sure that that's locked in and staying in key with the rest of your track. Very important thing there. Now, one issue, or it may not be an issue, but if we play across the keyboard and we play low notes and high notes, their playback speeds are different. And because their playback speeds are different, we're gonna have some sounds cutting out earlier than others. Like that. One way to attempt to rectify that a little bit is going to be to add in a loop. And we're going to add in a loop towards the end. So let's just click this. We're going to grab our loop.
Now move for me.
Let me see if I can find an interesting area. I'm okay with that. We have this 0 crossings, which by default is always going to be turned on, and that's just trying to present any pops or clicks at that looping point at the start and the end. We can also add in a little crossfade that should smooth it out. So that sounds pretty good right there. So now when we play a chord across the keyboard, you hear the effect that it gives us. If we want to be even more creative, we could add this sort of play forward, play backward to the loop. So right now, when it gets to the loop, it's playing, it's restarting. Now it's going to play, bounce off the wall, and come back. Let's hear how this sounds. We might have to make some adjustments. You could actually just imagine this, the looping part, starting a beat or something for your track. So that's cool just in and of itself. The parts of the sampler that we haven't really touched are these sections over here. Now, what we can do when this RAM is turned on is we can really make this kind of like a crazy wave scanny type of a sound where we can bounce and move this stuff all over the place in real time. Now, when we set it up the way we just set it up here, it's not going to be as interesting because if I take loop, it's just going to move it forward and move it right out of the zone. Same thing with like the playhead. Okay, that actually is going to work a little bit better. That's going to go from start to finish. But what makes this really interesting is if we go in and use some modulators and stuff on it, we can hear the effect when we're just dragging around. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add some modulators just to kind of make this crazy. And one of the better ways to do this is to make sure that you kind of put your loop somewhere like in the middle and you give it kind of a big length since we're going to be like jumping this thing all around. Okay, the playhead is going to be jumping around and the loop length is probably going to be like jumping around a little bit. We just have to remember that like when it gets down past like even like 30, it's gone too far. Okay, so maybe I'll actually take the loop start all the way back towards the beginning a little bit more so we have a little bit more room to work with. Okay, so let's add a couple of modulators in here. Let's add an LFO. And let's add a step sequencer. Okay, and that's all we'll probably work with for now. So let's put this LFO on the playhead start position. And we're going to slow that one down just a little bit. Okay, and we're going to reduce the range. And let's start the playhead out towards the middle a little bit more. Cool, I want to make sure it's kind of hitting the whole zone. And let's listen to this. And then with our step sequencer, we'll just go in here and like kind of randomize it all over the place. And let's have that one go on to the loop. Again, we're probably going to have to reel this in a little bit. That does go above and below. All right. And let's just have this free running, so that's always jumping all over the place. Let's roll the dice a couple times. Bring our depth control in a little bit, and we can also add some smoothing. I want to listen to it, though. Pretty crazy, right? And let's listen to how this is working. And let's play something really low. And that's a really interesting sound. And I know this isn't going to be mixed particularly well, but that's fine. And don't forget, we can then still do some offset stuff with this speed if we want to, but then we're losing kind of that tracking. That's very interesting. Let's add a little bit of a tact. And then trust me, we could go in and really kind of mix this sound and make it work. Do some multi-band stuff to the highs versus the lows. Let's just go ahead and add a multi-band effects on here. And I'll probably pause the video just so that we can get to the end of this and you'll hear how I've transformed the sound. Okay, so we've really gone crazy with this. Let's take a listen. And then the last thing we could do is even go in here and play around with this, either with a modulator or in real time. However, it is going to really kind of throw off some pitchy stuff, but let's listen to it. Let's actually map that to something. Let's map it to this control. Okay, and let's mess around with that a little bit. Now it's going to be all over the place. Okay, there you go. The other thing we can do is freeze the playback position. So now when we play a key, we're going to hear this sweeping through. And because we have some stuff modulated and routed already, it's not necessarily giving you the best idea of what's going on. So let's go ahead and create a new sampler just so I can give you an idea of what's happening with that. We'll go ahead and bring this one in, and we're going to go ahead and set it up the same way really quickly. And then we will freeze the playback head. So, okay, it's way too low. Let's go up.
Now move for me.
Okay. So when we freeze it, when we play notes, we're not going to hear anything, okay, until we actually move this around. And you can hear that effect like so. Let's bring up the volume. And you can do some like scratching type effects depending on what the sound is that you have coming in. Again, what I would probably do in that instance is I would map that to something, to some kind of MIDI controller. And again, there's tons of effects processing and things you can do. And then what I can do that makes it interesting is if I go to like voice stack and add a few voices onto this and then have them kind of spread out a bit, we'll hear what that adds to the sound. You can see how that added in those voices. And we'd probably put a filter or something on there. Something like this, okay. And then like that in combination with playing with the pitch, I don't think I have enough hands. Let me just add an LFO onto pitch. Is going to create some quite interesting effects. All right. Let's listen to this. And imagine putting a delay and like a reverb on here. I just want a preset of some kind. Let's see. Let's choose this one. This sounds like it has a crazy name, so hopefully it does something crazy. I'm gonna even offset pitch here. Let's go up higher. Okay. And the other thing I might add is like a resonator bank to that. All right, and maybe there's a preset in here that's fun. Let's use one of the Mystichord ones. And let's listen to this. I'd really like to actually go kind of crazy with it. Let's see. Okay, this should work. Let's see. All right. Let's move them all up a decent amount. And let's see. So as you can see, lots and lots of power, and that was just us playing around in the repitch mode. There's so much more we're going to be able to do in the cycles and textures.